today we have the Green Organic Dutchman. TGOD is a research and development company licensed under ACMPR to cultivate medical cannabis. The company grows high-quality organic cannabis with sustainable, all-natural principles. TGOD's products are laboratory tested to ensure patients have access to a standardized, safe, and consistent product. TGOD has a funded capacity of 170,000 kilograms and is building 1.3 million square feet of cultivation facilities in Ontario, Quebec, and Jamaica. I'll now turn it over to Danny Brody, VP of Investor Relations for TGOD.
Thank you, Phil. All right, we've got a couple more guys coming in here. This is exciting. Woo! There we go, some energy in the room. So I'm Danny Brody. I'm Vice President of the Green Organic Dutchman, the Investor Relations Department. I've been with the company since 2016 when our new management team came in and basically bought the original company. Then we got started with our financing plan. So when we got started with the Dutchman, we really had a tremendous amount of experience because we had spent the majority of 2013 and 14 investing into the cannabis space through our fund called Rockshield Capital. So one of our directors helped take a company called Organogram public in 2014, helped with the whole process of raising money there. One of us, including myself, a few of us, we part of this fund, we worked to find different companies that kind of stood out in the market. We found a company in 2016 called KindCan. Now, KindCan, some of you might recognize that name, but they had raised about $30 million to repurpose a chicken factory and grow cannabis in it. However, they ran out of money, and we came in to help them finance strategically. So we helped them raise a financing at 50 cents, around at 75 cents, around at $1.15, and their whole go public strategy. We helped with all that. So we raised about $75 million over the course of about a year with them. So between Organogram and Emblem, they really acted as we really acted as financiers and advisors to the company. But what that did is it taught us an incredible amount about the market. It taught us what we could improve on, taught us areas we could learn from, taught us things that we could and couldn't do. So when we found TGOD, TGOD was originally founded by a Dutch couple in 2012. When we found the company, they came to us because they wanted to scale quicker. And we had the experience on the market side. They had the experience growing cannabis way back to 2006. So we partnered with them, and we ended up actually buying 80% of the company from them in the early days, 2016. And then we applied all the knowledge from the two previous transactions to TGOD, to the Dutchman. And that is sort of how we got started. Just a little bit more about myself, and then I'll jump into it. I worked as a retail investment advisor for about 8 years before leaving that business and coming directly onto the company side. So I was pitched hundreds and probably even thousands of times by entrepreneurs that would always come in and talk to us, and they had a great business plan, but the number of entrepreneurs that came to see us for financing that had a good capital market strategy was slim to none. They always had either one or the other, but none of them had both. So when we started TGOD, we made sure we came to the market with both. And we thought through everything from our capital market strategy to our IPO to our free trade dates to our warrants long ahead of any of it actually happening. So when we developed the strategy, it worked perfectly together. Well, I don't want to say perfectly, but it worked well together with the strategy we had built out coming up with the company. So one of the things that we learned is it's a lot more capital intensive than you think. You can't just go out and raise $10 million or raise $20 million for the medical market. These companies had to raise $100 million or $200 million or $300 million for the recreational market. That, plus, in Canada, there's only 38 million people. I mean, we've got the same population as California. It's crazy. Same size country. But point being, the market for us is not in Canada. It's a great place to start. We've started in Ontario. That's where all of our facilities are right now, Ontario and Quebec. It makes all the sense in the world to start there, but we don't want to finish there by any means. We want to be global. We want to be, Europe's got 750 million people. South America's got 640 million people. Canada's got 38 million. So, like I said, great place to start, but not the best place to finish. This is our opportunity to lose, and I think it's important to explain that because A lot of what I'm going to talk about today for the next few minutes is going to be on the international side. It's going to be on the product, the branded product side, and it's going to be on the licensing side. Taking advantage of areas in the States where you can come up with unique products, bring them to Canada, bring the brands that are already selling in the States, have developed a product, have developed a following, and developed sales, bring them to Canada, use our facility where we're allowed federally to make the different products, and then own those Canadian and international sales and distribution channels. It's exciting stuff. All right, without further ado, this is what, when we first started, I mean, just quickly here, we knew we had to raise a lot of money, so we've raised $350 million to date. We just are about to close a second bought deal at $75 million, which will take us to $425 million. And a number of our $7 warrants from our IPO are coming in the money, which will bring us to about $450 million raised to date. That fully funds our domestic operation. Everything that's going to be coming soon is all international. So I'll touch on all of this going forward. Production, high quality, indoor, low cost is key. I'm sure you've heard of margin compression. It's going to be coming. You need to be, if you're not cognizant of a high quality product being organic for us, and I'll touch on why that's important, with a low cost of production, you will be left behind, in my belief. R&D, we've got one of the largest budgets of any licensed producer for research and development, $55 million. The science and the technology and the IP being developed in the space right now is so important for the future growth of the industry. It's not just going to be in cultivation. I can't stress that enough. Cultivation it's a commodity, and I'll touch on that as well. Licensing deals are important. Consumer packaged goods. Cannabis is an ingredient. It's like any consumer product, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, you name it. It'll be packaged up, put into a variety of higher margin products, and that's where the value is going to be. You don't see Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Molson, any of the beer companies, talking about how many acres of barley they're growing. They're not even packaging up their own products. It's all the brand in the middle that the large companies own. So we understand that. And then taking that CPG or consumer packaged good company to international markets, which ultimately leads to building a large and scalable position in organic cannabis. Like I said, we've raised $350 million officially to date. It's going to move up to $450 million pretty soon, which fully funds our domestic production. 170,000 kilograms of annual production. We're in the States, so it's about 280,000 pounds. Don't quote me on that. I don't have my calculator. Proven management team, guys that have done it before in consumer packaged goods, beverages, brand building, a whole number of different industries where we feel cannabis isn't today, but where it's going to be going tomorrow. And that's where we want to be. We've got industry-leading construction and design partners. We've got a strategic investor with Aurora Cannabis. They invested $78 million into our company in the last 9 months. One of the things we learned with the last two transactions is you need to have a key differentiating factor. You need to have something that stands out against the competitors. Right now, and I'm going to touch on this with the organic slide, but 57% of medical patients prefer an organic product, and 43% of recreational customers prefer an organic product. Yet there's only 3 licensed, certified organic companies. Organigram got recertified yesterday, which is awesome, so that makes the third one. The other one is Whistler Medical, and then us. We've got a strategic beverage division, and I have no idea why that's not lined up. For someone who is OCD like me, that drives me nuts. 40,000 square foot state-of-the-art research and development center. Again, coming up with, putting budgets towards R&D to come up with novel products, that is where the future is. Licensing and international expansion, I'll touch on that going forward here. Do I have a timer? So organic's a brand in its own. If I took you to Sweden, or we went to South America somewhere and we asked the grocer to take us to the organic section, I guarantee you every single one of those places is going to have an organic section for cucumbers and tomatoes, whatever. Point being, it's a lifestyle choice. It's not the choice between a product A or a product B, right? It's an actual lifestyle choice. And when you're a consumer, and I'm sure most of you have bought organic in the past, or you at least know what it is, when you're a consumer, you're willing to pay a premium price for that organic product. And for us, the average premium works out to 34%. Not bad. Amazon, I just want to touch on this, but Amazon's purchase of Whole Foods seriously validated the entire organic market for us. That was a $14 billion acquisition. I don't think anyone's doubting the fact that organic is a growing trend, especially amongst younger consumers. Everyone cares today about what they put in their body. We're a responsible and sustainable company. And again, it comes down to this whole organic side. We're building LEED certified facilities. Everything that goes into the facilities is environmentally friendly. It's sustainable. 90% of our water is being collected and reused. We've got natural on-site wells that we take our fresh water from. Energy sustainability, high efficiency, low cost, high quality. We've got strategic relationships. Now this is important, and it comes back to when I mentioned the other companies that we worked with, but it's such a new industry, right? Like, not a lot of companies have gone out and been able to create a scalable cannabis company ever. Like, it's a new industry, right? It hasn't been done before. But what we can do is we can partner with companies that have done it in other areas. Take Eaton Corp for an example. They've got over $20 billion a year in revenue, and they've put their name on our company to partner with us to learn all the intricacies of the electrical and the power, measuring electricity from source through the power lines, into the building, down through the lights, into the plant, developing that IP around that so they can then take that to 175 countries around the world and create that data set with us. Ledcor is the second largest construction management company in all of Canada. They're $3 billion annual revenue. They've put their name on our project. They're handling the entire construction, the entire build-out. And of course, Aurora Larson Projects, who's our construction, our facility engineer and designer. I don't think there's any doubt that Thomas Larson is an incredible greenhouse designer, hybrid facility designer. He's one of the most well-known guys in the industry. It was so well-known that Aurora bought him last year in November. We, of course, got worried because they're our greenhouse engineer and designer. So we ended up coming to Aurora with a deal. So they ended up investing $78 million into our company and allowing us the ability to continue using Thomas Larson. In Canada, there's 3 ways to grow cannabis. There's 4. There's outdoor, which is not legal, so I won't talk about it. There's indoor, which you get a high-quality product. Generally speaking, a high cost to do it. There's a greenhouse facility, which is a low capex. You get a very low operating cost, but you generally get a lower quality product. And the reason you get a lower quality product is because you're venting to the outside environment. So if you're opening up the vent and it's very hot outside and cooler in the facility, or vice versa, it's cool in the facility and hot outside, what happens? Not quite pressure, but when you get the big temperature fluctuations, you get humidity. And then, oh, you're saying that. You knew the answer. I love it. You get humidity, and then what do you get from humidity? Mold and powdery mildew. The number 1 killer of any cannabis operation is mold and powdery mildew. I think it's the worst kept secret for any Canadian licensed producer that there has been a significant problem for crop loss. It's just the way it is, and it comes down to the fact that it's a new industry. Anyway, 3 ways to grow. The middle one is a hybrid facility where you get a medium capital expenditure to build. You get a high-quality product because it's like a greenhouse in the sense that you've got a glass roof, but it's a completely sealed-off environment, so you're not venting to that outside environment. You don't have the big temperature fluctuations and the humidity changes. It's completely controlled. It's completely sealed off, and with that, you get a higher quality product. Make sense? Excellent. Strategically located. So when you live in the second largest country in the world, sorry, America, with the same population as California, imagine if you're in BC. If you're a licensed producer in BC and you're shipping 6.2 out of 10, so call it 6 out of 10 orders from Ontario or from BC to Ontario or BC to Quebec, because 2/3 of the Canadian population are in those 2 provinces, what do you think your increased shipping costs are, your increased logistics, your inability to offer things like same-day service to clients? All things that matter. And the biggest thing is, with Quebec, 5.1 cents per kilowatt hour power cost. That is the cheapest power rate in all of Canada, 5.1 cents. So, for us, being in these two areas makes all the sense in the world, and logistics matter. Next up, our Valleyfield facility. This is the one we're building in Quebec. And I love this because I've been a part of this company for over 2 years now, since we were just a small company. But all the dollars that I've helped the company raise, it's the neatest thing ever, because we're actually halfway through construction on this now. You can see the latest videos by going to tgod.ca. We do an updated video every Tuesday on our construction. And we're going to be operating completely by the end of 2019. First harvest is going to start in Q2 of next year. And that's 142,000 kilograms coming up and running. That's a big number. One unique thing I just want to touch on here is we've got a dual zone property, which allows, it's 85% zone for agriculture and 15% zone for commercial industrial. So what that allows us to do is have, kind of like we have here in California, we've got the technology agri-parks. You have a whole bunch of different companies operating under one roof, creating unique products. We are doing that exact same thing with our facility in Quebec, in the sense that it's zoned for dual use. So we can offer a unique cannabis experience to any customers coming to see the property, and we can also have different companies coming in and working with us. So I'm going to touch on the licensing opportunities that we're doing, which will all bring this full circle for you guys. Hamilton, 150,000 square feet. So this will be online for Q1 2019, with first harvest happening in the first half of 2019. This is where we're growing in this small one right now. That's where we got our license in 2012. All of that's under construction, coming online very soon, which brings our Canadian productive capacity to 156,000 kilograms. I really should have this converted to pounds. Jamaica. So as I talked about a little bit earlier, for us as a company, Canada is a great place to start, but it's not a great place to finish. We want to be international. That's where the future is. It's in branded products, it's in licensing, it's in taking products around the world that have already been developed. It's about developing your own products. With Jamaica, we bought 49% of a Jamaican cannabis company called Epican. Now, Epican was the first vertically integrated company in Jamaica to have cultivation, manufacturing, extract, and retail stores. So with that, we got a tremendous partnership here. We're opening up 5 dispensaries. If you asked me a year ago if you asked me 3 years ago if I'd have anything to do with opening dispensaries in Jamaica, I would have said you're absolutely crazy. But here we are. We're going to have 5 more dispensaries by the end of the year, and total planned production there is 14,000 kilograms, which will be coming online by the end of this year as well. Hemp Poland, this is one of my personal favorites, because what Hemp Poland does for us is it allows a strategic gateway into Europe. So Europe right now has got 750 some odd people. Hemp Poland is already selling in 13 European countries. They've got 700 plus stores that they're selling their Cannabis Gold brand into. It's one of the top selling CBD brands in all of Europe. And we got an incredible deal on it. But what it does for us is there's 11 medical legal countries now in Europe. There's more coming online every few months, it seems. I just read a thing from a friend sent me that was saying the European Union is voting on December 6th to legalize medical cannabis across all European Union countries. So you can think, if that's the plan now, we've got a strategic advantage in the sense that we've already got distribution lined up for 700 plus stores with a brand in hand in 13 countries. Do you think that would be a good or a bad idea when the time comes to have medical cannabis legal everywhere? I think it would be a good idea. Yes. So that's kind of the thinking there. And we got an incredible deal. We spent $7.5 million up front in cash, $7.5 million in stock. They get additional bonuses if they achieve certain revenue milestones. You can see them here. And then we also invested just over $10 million into the business to scale it even quicker across all of Europe. You combine all of the facilities together, we've got 14 in Jamaica, 14 in Hamilton, 142 in Valleyfield. that takes us to 170,000 kilograms total productive capacity. R&D, we're going to touch on this a little bit, but 3 key points to research and development. You've got your cultivation, you've got your clinical trials, and you've got product development. All incredibly important to the future of cannabis because it's still so new. We haven't been able to spend the time or the money developing products. We haven't been able to spend the time or money performing R&D to come up with solutions for different ailments that everyone's talking about. So we've got a $55 million budget geared towards R&D. It's one of the largest budgets of any licensed producer, and we're trying to actually help. So that's going to be a big part of our company. And we've got the right leadership team on the science side to deliver on that. Just going to touch on Prem Vermani here, but Prem is probably one of the most well-known beverage guys in the world. This fellow basically invented white labeling for cola companies. He started his career in the 60s with Coca-Cola, but he has been able to white label RC Cola, President's Choice, a whole bunch of different brands, and help them come up with unique formulations for that. So for Prem, what he's going to do for us is, on the beverage side, the biggest problem with beverages right now and edibles is the fact that there's a bitter taste to it, there's a scent to it, and you can't measure the onset, the peak, and the offset. So let's see a show of hands. Who in the audience has had an edible before? And is one of the biggest problems with edibles the fact that you don't know if it's going to hit you in 30 minutes or 2 hours. You don't know if it's going to last 5 hours afterwards. You don't know if it's going to knock you out or give you energy or what the heck it's going to do. It's not a consistent experience. So one of the things Prem is going to do is he is working on that consistent experience. We want to have a tasteless, odorless product that you can measure that onset, that peak, and then that offset. Similar to a beer, similar to a glass of wine. So that is going to be massive for us going forward. And when you start to be able to offer that consistency on a regular basis with a variety of different products, I believe, and we believe as a company, that's where you're going to start to get that mass scale recreational adoption. Nobody wants to go and have a bunch of gummies at a bar. That's weird. You want to have a cannabis drink, we think, when you can start to replicate a beer or a glass of wine to have that same effect. So you know, if you go to a bar or wherever they're going to serve it, and you have 3 cannabis beers, not with alcohol in them, but you have 3 cannabis-style drinks, you're going to be able to know that that's going to be a similar effect to having 3 glasses of wine. And you don't get a hangover. So anyway, I get excited and ramble. So here we go. Medical market at the bottom. Cannabis is just an ingredient. When we take that ingredient and start packaging it up into higher margin products, you go from flour to oil to pet health, all the way up to the top being beverages, and beverages are your largest global volume product, and you require the least amount of cannabis to go into the beverage, making your margins the absolute highest. So for us, that's going to be a big focus, not just because of the way it's going to be socially adopted, which I think it's going to go heavily mainstream very quickly here, once we can solve these key issues of taste, scent, and onset, peak, and offset. This is our brand. We're doing our first launch in January to 200 select invite-only patients. We're calling it our Founders Club. These are people that have helped start our company. They helped invest in our company 2-3 years ago. We're selecting 200 of them to come in, test our product kind of as a thank you, to try and give back, say, thank you for helping us. We're going to give you guys first at our product, and then from there, we're going to go heavily into the recreational market while still serving the medical market. I think the medical market is underserved right now. Again, I'm going to keep hitting this one on the head, but beverages is so huge for us for all the reasons I just said. So because of that, what we're doing is we're building a 40,000 square foot innovation center. This is going to be on our Quebec facility. And I just think it's the most unique thing, because we want to have all these different companies coming to our innovation center, working with us, partnering with us, developing new products, developing new IP, developing new breeding techniques, taking cannabis to a whole new level. And that is exactly what this facility is going to do. again, beverages. You can see some of these infused CBD water bottles, infused juices with CBD in them. And again, for us as a country in Canada, we've got one of the most unique opportunities on our hand because it's the first time we haven't had to compete with the most innovative nation in the world, being you guys. We have federal legality. We are able to operate our banks, our Canada Post we use Canada Post to ship products. All these things are so incredible for Canada. But in the states that are legal, you guys can still create different branded products. You can still create different technology that goes into these products. So take a look at EvoLab. EvoLab is the #1 selling vape in all of Colorado. We can license that technology and own the entire Canadian distribution and the entire Canadian sales channels and take that international as well. So we can partner with US companies, not to bring cannabis across the border, but to bring the technology and the brand across the border. And what that does is it allows these US companies to go international. Because right now, if you're in California, you can't drive across the border and sell that same product that you just produced here and sell it in Oregon. It's not allowed. You can't go state to state. So it's so huge for these US companies that are trying to create a brand, create a following, and create that international footprint to partner with us, use our land, our license, our team, and our technology to manufacture their products on our site, and then we just take a clip. But your brand is now international. Ripple SC is a technology developed by Stillwater Brands. Stillwater is an incredible company that's developed this fast-acting 5 to 10 minute product that is dissolvable. You just sprinkle it into a beverage. It's water soluble, it's tasteless, it's odorless, and it's fast acting. So 3 of the 5 things I mentioned we need to solve earlier is already solved by Ripple. We own the Canadian rights, we own the international rights. We are going to take that product all around the world and make some very incredible things happen. Like I said, Canada, 37 million people, Europe, 750, Latin America, these are all areas we want to be in. We just announced a massive joint venture this morning with a Mexican company. We're doing a 50-50 JV. It's one of the largest distributors in all of the country to their 110 million people. But what that allows us to do is take TGOD branded products that we grow in all areas around the world and sell them into Mexico. Or at least get ahead of it, because it's not completely recreational right now. It's legal for medical. But what we want to do is we want to get ahead of the curve. We want to be in there now, so we're not playing catch-up. Aurora has been an incredible partner for us so far. Not only have they invested $78 million, they have also helped with every aspect. They just went and built Aurora Sky. Aurora Sky is an 800,000 square foot facility on the Edmonton Airport that's going to grow 100,000 kilograms a year. So they've got about a 2.5-year head start on us on the facility. So the amount of learnings from that, if maybe a nut doesn't fit right or a bolt doesn't move properly or a robotic arm doesn't operate correctly, we're able to take all of that knowledge and their learning experience, and because it's the exact same greenhouse engineer and designer Thomas Larson, we can replicate that, fix all the mistakes, and have that benefit of having a partner that's gone through that already before. We can then save all the amount of time, effort, and money that we can save from that is huge. They also have a 20% purchase agreement with us for 20% of our premium organic quality product. I like this one. As of September 21st, we were the 4th largest for funded capacity, 170,000 kgs, and we were the 6th largest for market cap. But you can see what the competitors look like. And probably my favorite slide, everyone always asks me about valuation. Are these companies valued crazily? My answer is always the same. Let's look, first of all, yes, they've gone up very quickly and very fast, but let's look at the industries we're disrupting. We're disrupting the alcohol industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the tobacco industry. If you take a look at the top market caps of the pharmaceutical companies, you're over 800 billion. You look at the top 3 tobacco companies, you're getting close to $500 billion. You look at the top 3 alcohol companies, again, 300 billion. You look at the top 6 cannabis companies, Canopy, Aurora, Tilray, Aphria, Cronos, us in 6th place. You are not even scratching the surface for that. And the market is a very similar size. The Canadian beer market is 8 billion. No yawning. The Canadian beer market is 8 billion. The Canadian wine market is 7 billion. Spirits is 5 billion. Cannabis is 10. Cannabis is already, it will be 10 in the first year of legalization. So for a market that's so similarly sized, we are not even scratching the surface of the potential market caps of the companies and the industries that we're offsetting. That excites me. Yes. We've got what I feel is one of the most well-rounded management teams, and we have pulled talent from areas where we feel cannabis isn't today, but where it's going tomorrow. We have pulled guys from the consumer packaged goods industry, from consumer products. Our CEO, Brian, spent 25 years with Procter & Gamble. He spent the last 3 years with a company called Peller. It's the largest publicly traded winery in Canada. Chubba Ryder comes from Cott Corporation, one of the largest beverage companies in the world. Julia is Procter & Gamble as well. She's our interim CFO. Anna Stewart's been with Teva, John Wren, Cott, Andrew Pollock, Weight Watchers, Maple Leaf Foods, Cott as well, Mike Gibbons, Cott. So you can see why. Question? Oh, hi. So yes, incredible team. And then we've got our board of directors. So Jeff Scott built Grand Tier Energy up from nothing to a multi-billion-dollar company. We've got Mark Bertrand, spent 28 years, longer than that, with Mega Bloks. So your kids might play with it. It's a competitor to Lego. Now, he sold that company in 2014 to Mattel for $500 million. They were doing over $600 million a year in sales. But the important thing with Mark is he took Mega Block to 175 countries around the world. Might seem kind of similar to what we're trying to do. Ian Wilms, Calgary policeman, Brian Athade also on the board. And the last one I want to draw your attention to is Nicholas Curtin, who is the chairman of the CIPF, which we might not know in the States, but it's the Canadian Investor Protection Fund. So he oversees all of Canada for the CIPF, which is it's a massive organization and a huge validator to our company. This is what our capital structure looks like. Management and founders own 55 million shares. We issued 106 million in our pre-IPO rounds, 31 million for our IPO, 233 million outstanding, and 329 million fully diluted. What that's done for us has given us approximately 261 million in cash now, which fully funds our domestic operations. Everything else that we have in the bank is going to international. And if we exercise all of our options, all of our warrants, we'll have over $567 million come in on top of that. All founding shares have a 42-month pooling agreement attached to them. So we didn't want to have any insiders or founders able to sell stock before any investors could. And there's some options outstanding and things like that that are able to, but the vast majority is tied to this 42-month pooling agreement. We've got a very large shareholder base. We spent a lot of time developing our private rounds. So we actually raised about 160 million privately before our IPO, where we raised 132 million on the IPO. But what that did is we had a retail-focused approach where we raised money from retail investors. We said no to the institutions originally, and that allowed wide-scale distribution. So if somebody invested $5,000 or $10,000 into our company 2 years ago, our belief was that they might want to tell a few friends about it if their stock performed well. Now, these guys are all up 10, 15 times on their money. Patients of the medical market, customers of the recreational market, brand ambassadors. These are all things these investors are able to become because of the way we structured our company privately. We also spread out all of our free trade dates. So our IPO free traded right away. All of our privately issued stock comes free trading at the 6-month mark, and then all of our warrants had a 12-month hold on them. So again, staggering out our free trade dates, spreading very wide all of our investors so no one shareholder can hurt us, no one free trade date can hurt us. At least that's the idea. And I think that sums it up. Highlight page again, $350 million raised, completely funds our domestic operation. Next up is international. We've got a proven management team with industry-leading construction and design partners, strategic investor with Aurora Cannabis. We've got a certified organic product, which is one of our key differentiators, strategic beverage division, and the licensing side is huge for us going forward. I'm just going to touch on one more thing here quickly. We're doing a spin out. So anyone who has invested in TGOD has the right to purchase shares in our new spin out company called TGOD Acquisitions. So if you own shares before November 16th, you are eligible to buy shares in the new company at 50 cents. Now, the unique thing about the new company is the fact that there's one share outstanding, the single share that was issued to incorporate the company. So there's no free founder stock, there's no 5-cent shares being issued. This is the true founder round, and we're giving TGOD shareholders the first crack at participating in the new company. That should be about it. Anyway, let's do Q&A. Yes.
So I know that like Aurora Pharmaceuticals and others have been in and out of Navy, Costco, Coca-Cola, Pepsi for the beverage industry that you were talking about. Is there any thought about a major company like that looking into investment or buyouts or anything like that?
100%. That is, and I of course can't say too much about that and who we're talking to and what's happening kind of behind the scenes, obviously, because it's under NDAs and things like that. But you just have to look at any industry that's being offset. So especially alcohol, especially tobacco, especially pharma. Beverage, to be honest, I thought beverage wouldn't be in there, but over the last few months, it makes all the sense in the world. This is a huge opportunity with CBD, with non-psychoactive cannabinoids. I think Coca-Cola talking amongst some of the LPs is just the beginning. I've also heard rumors that Pepsi is now looking to do it. We saw that Altria, the large tobacco company, is looking as well. So I really think that this is just the start, and the start, Constellation investing in Canopy was just the start of this. Any industry that's going to be offset by cannabis is going to want to look to partner with companies like us. Yes? Great question. So I'll just repeat it. But what's TGOD's plan for the U.S. market? Now, part of the reason, so we're a TSX listed company. We cannot have any U.S. operations at all to remain on the senior board in Canada. Zero. We can't even have an investment in the States. That's why companies like Aurora did the spinoff with Australis. Canopy's done their investment arm as well. We are now doing our investment arm, essentially, which is our spin-out transaction. So because we're on the TSX, we can't do anything that is in the States. And the way we've developed the TGOD brand is it's all around the organic side. So the other thing we can't do right now is anything non-organic. So in the press release with TGOD Acquisitions, we had a sentence about one thing we wanted to do was list on the CSE. So I can't say too much about TGOD's strategic plans for the States, but I can say that we plan to list it on the CSE, if that makes sense. Yes, go ahead.
Do you guys plan on making any moves into the smoke consumption lounges and building on those?
Do we plan to make moves in the smoke consumption lounges? Like, I would like to, myself. As far as the company goes, it's a bit of a tricky area because in Ontario, we're only allowed to have one store. We're only allowed to have one main store that we're selling any product out of, and it has to be on our licensed address. So as far as having sort of unique concept stores goes, I think that's going to be fairly tough for us to do in Canada. Hopefully in the future, though, because I think it's a great idea. It works well in the recreational market right now, or the gray market, or whatever you want to call it. Yes. It might or might not be in the United States, our acquisition arm. But as far as touching the plant goes, it's tough to say. We've had a team of 10 guys for the last 2 years build a database of every single country around the world, ranging from their CBD legal regimes, whether it's hemp derived or cannabis derived, the THC portion of it, the quantities. They put a huge database together and then started looking at every single individual company. So we've basically built this up for 2 years, all this knowledge, all this IP, all these connections. So it's going to be a whole variety of different companies we're looking at. So hopefully that answers, sort of. We're going to do something else. We started with TGOD Acquisitions because it just speeds up the process. It's TGOD spin out, TGOD Acquisitions. It makes it easy. But I think we'd be crazy to call a company TGOD Acquisition Corp. Yes. Yeah. So asking about non-GAAP financials and biological assets, and biological assets are one of the biggest nightmares for Canadian LPs to account for. So point one, we have to measure a plant in 7 different sections of its life cycle and attribute a value to that. Point one, that's crazy. So it's tough. It's obviously tough to do. My second point for us specifically as a company is going to be, I'd feel it's not going to be a problem because we're growing in 7,000 square feet right now. Our big facilities start coming online next year. So any production that we've done so far has all gone towards research and development, and we've all stored it for what's to come. So as far as biological assets and accounting processes go, for us, I don't think that's going to be much of a problem at all. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, everyone does it differently. You can do, yeah, exactly. There's no standardized way to measure cost per gram. I think it's a problem in the space. I mean, there's also your cash cost versus your all-in cost, right? So you can have a cash cost that's 60 cents, but doesn't include packaging, doesn't include fulfillment, doesn't include shipping, and then your all-in cost is going to be $3. So you can have these huge fluctuations in financials that skew revenues in companies' favors, or I assume that's going to be in companies' favors, otherwise they wouldn't want to do it. But 100%, I think we need to have some sort of standardized way to measure cost per gram. I think at this point we would still talk to anyone that was interested in having a conversation, because at the end of the day, the top 3 tobacco companies are worth $380 billion. If one of them wanted to come in and make an offer and have an organic arm or do something, I think we'd have a hard time turning that down. You bet. One more, yes. Patient acquisition costs, yes. Good question. So how disruptive is the recreational market going to be to the medical market is the question. I think the medical market is still going to exist in Canada because we ship direct to patients through Canada Post. So for an LP, we get the highest margin on a medical patient. There's no intermediary. There's no distributor in between. So I think the other thing to consider is insurance companies are starting to reimburse purchases of cannabis in Canada. We just had one of the biggest insurance companies announce they're going to start covering it at 100%. So I think between insurance companies covering it, it's going to be still a huge market. I do not think it's going to go away completely because the number of therapeutic benefits and ailments that cannabis treats is too big to ignore. So I don't think it's going to disrupt the medical market too much. I think the recreational is just going to be a whole new market kind of alongside it. And I think they're going to work in tandem together. I think it's going to be an evolving situation. If people start abusing it, they're going to crack down on it. But at the end of the day, in Canada, we still have to go see our doctor to get a prescription. Then we take that prescription to a licensed producer to one of us to get fulfilled. So, I mean, if doctors are going to have to be equally abusing the system if that's the case. And when you start getting in that territory, that's a bit of a iffy realm. I don't think many doctors would want to put their licenses on the line to take advantage of an insurance business. But I think it's going to be an evolving situation as we go forward. Any more? Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Appreciate your time today. Hope you enjoy the show.